Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so did you know that the average person has over 100 online accounts? 100. Today we're going to explore the incredibly fascinating world of open source intelligence, or OSINT for short, and look at exactly how investigators trace digital identities all across the internet. Let's dive right in. Have you ever actually stopped to think about how much of your life is tied to just a single username? Well, whether you're a cybersecurity professional, maybe a journalist, or honestly just someone wanting to understand your own online exposure, mastering the art of the digital breadcrumb trail is absolutely essential.
Here is a super quick roadmap for our investigation today. We are going to cover the power of OSINT, tracing the digital footprint, enumeration tools, the trap of false positives, cross-referencing and correlation, and finally, ethics and legal boundaries.
Section 1. The power of OSINT. So what exactly is open source intelligence? Fundamentally, it's the systematic collection and analysis of publicly available data to generate actionable intelligence. It's not about hacking, and it's not about covert, shadowy methods. It's really just about looking at what is literally already out there in the open, stuff on social media, public forums, public records, search engines, and knowing exactly how to piece all that information together effectively. Now, right off the bat, it is vital to understand the difference between raw data and actual intelligence. Say you find a random username on a forum. That is just open source data, or OSD. It's raw, it's unanalyzed, and on its own, it doesn't tell us much. It only becomes open source intelligence, or OSINT, after you've processed it, verified it, and actually figured out what it means in the context of your specific investigation. And that brings us to the golden rule of this entire field. Data is just data until analyzed. To give you a really practical example, let's look at the difference between a real name, a display name, and a username. Your real name is a legal identifier. Your display name is just what you choose to show people, like, say, John's Tech Reviews, and you can change that whenever you want. But a username, that unique handle used to log in or route a specific profile URL, that is a highly specific digital identifier. But remember, finding that identifier is totally meaningless until we apply an analytical framework to it. That analytical framework? We call that the intelligence lifecycle. You see, professionals don't just go to Google and start typing things in randomly. They use a structured approach. They plan their objectives, they collect the data, process it into something usable, analyze it to find the hidden connections, disseminate those findings, and then use the feedback to basically start the whole cycle over again. This structure is exactly what separates a casual late-night internet search from a true professional investigation. Section 2. Tracing the digital footprint. Usernames are incredibly valuable because, honestly, they act like the connective tissue of the internet. Individuals and organizations reuse them all the time across platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Why? Mostly just out of sheer convenience. But here's the fun part. By doing a bit of pattern analysis, we can learn a ton. People often build their usernames using really consistent naming conventions. They might use their initials, maybe a birth date, or a specific organizational standard. By picking up on these statistical patterns, investigators can actually predict what other usernames a target might be using somewhere else. So, how do we actually pull this off? We use something called the username workflow. This gives us a solid, repeatable methodology. We start by brainstorming to find all potential usernames. Then, we verify which websites actually have an active account under that name. From there, we dig in. We examine the profiles, retrieve the data, look at who they're interacting with, and then, and this is the most crucial part, we pivot. We take whatever we just found and use it as a springboard to uncover even more leads. Section 3. Username enumeration tools. Enumeration is just the systematic process of identifying usernames across the web. And to do this efficiently, practitioners use some pretty specialized tools. If you're comfortable with a bit of programming, command line interfaces, which just means you type commands into a text interface rather than clicking buttons, tools like Sherlock or Magit are incredibly powerful. They can scrape hundreds of sites in literally seconds. But hey, if you have limited technology experience, no worries at all. Web-based tools like NameCheck or the What's My Name app are fantastic, super accessible alternatives. They let you check a username's availability across dozens of platforms with just a single click. But, as great as they are, automated tools definitely have their limitations. That is exactly why we also have to rely on manual querying. We do this by using specific search engine operators, often known in the industry as Google dorks. I know, it's a funny name, but they're really just advanced search filters. For example, using the inURL command tells the search engine that our target's name absolutely must appear in the web address.
This little trick forces search engines to reveal hidden public profiles, forum posts, or even code repositories that an automated tool might completely miss. Section 4. The trap of false positives. Listen closely, because this is the single biggest stumbling block for any investigator. The crucial point here is understanding correlation versus causality. Let's say you find the username ShadowGamer99 on Twitter, and then you find that exact same name on a gaming platform. That is correlation. It absolutely does not prove that they are the exact same person. Yes, the benefits of analyzing username reuse are huge, but the risk of assuming common ownership without actual proof, that can completely derail your entire investigation. So why do these false positives happen? Well, sometimes multiple people just happen to have the same name, or maybe your target's name is just incredibly common for a specific geographic region. You might also run into issues if you rely on outdated cache data, or worse, maliciously manipulated information, which can totally lead you down the wrong path. The takeaway? We have to evaluate publicly available evidence responsibly before we jump to any conclusions. Section 5. Cross-referencing and correlation. Remember the workflow we discussed earlier? Well, the ultimate goal of every single discovery is the pivot. It's like a giant puzzle. We take one isolated breadcrumb, like a username, and we try to connect it to an email address. If we can verify that email, we pivot again. We check if that email registered any web domains. If it did, we pivot one more time to look for a physical address tied to that domain. This chain reaction is exactly how a complete picture is painted. But to make sure our pivots are actually accurate, we must corroborate. If you find two accounts with the same username, please don't just assume it's a match. Look closely at the profile information. Is it consistent? Do they link out to the exact same external websites? Do their Whois domain registration records happen to share an IP address? By mapping these associations out and evaluating our confidence levels using multiple independent sources, we verify our intelligence. And this is exactly why you must never ever take a single data point at face value. Section 6. Ethics and legal boundaries. Because with great visibility comes great responsibility. The power to uncover someone's digital life is profound, but I cannot stress this enough. OSINT misuse is a very serious issue. Just because information is technically public, it does not mean that accessing or compiling it is suddenly free from ethical or legal constraints. If we get things wrong, we risk violating privacy, crossing into some very messy legal gray areas, and dangerously spreading harmful misinformation. To operate responsibly, practitioners have to strictly adhere to data privacy regulations, things like GDPR, and absolutely respect the terms of service of whatever platforms they're searching. It means actively avoiding unsupported conclusions, always verifying your sources, and maintaining a transparent, highly documented workflow so that every single step you take can be audited. We are researchers here, not digital trespassers. I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. If an investigator using only legal, completely publicly available information can piece together a comprehensive profile of a life from just a single reused username, what do you think a malicious threat actor could do with your digital footprint? It really highlights the importance of managing our own online exposure, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on username OSINT. Keep learning, stay curious, and always, always investigate responsibly.